Everyone, we're back with Tania Johnston on the line with us. She is our keynote speaker. Tania began her career as a school teacher in New Brunswick and then transitioned to adult education following her move to Ottawa, Ontario with her husband. In 2000, she moved into the not-for-profit sector, joining Mechanical Contractors Association of Canada for a 6-month contract, and she never looked back. Tania oversaw MCA Canada's Education Foundation, implemented middle management education, university student engagement, the Women in Mechanical Construction Initiative, and most recently overseeing MCAC's annual convention in Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, and did I mention that she just became the first female CEO of MCA Canada in March?
I received the July and August issue of the Mechanic Business magazine and saw Tania on the cover, so I knew I had to reach out. Don't forget, if you have any questions, please enter them in the Q&A box to be answered at the end of the presentation. Tania, if you're ready, take it away.
So good morning, and thank you very much to ORAC for inviting me to speak today. Before I take you on my professional journey, I'd like to congratulate Amy and Jessica for an amazing conference that they've pulled together during a pandemic, nonetheless. So thanks, girls. You have been innovative, you have been enthusiastic, and you can tell that you have put your heart and soul into things, that this really means a lot to you. The industry means a lot to you. Encouraging women in the industry means a lot to you. So I really appreciate everything that you've done. It's been a pleasure to work with you. And I reached out to their boss, Mike, too. And I said, Mike, you better keep a close eye on those girls because or want to move. I've got a job here for them. So I told him to be careful. So thanks, girls.
Thank you so much, Tania.
Thank you, Tania.
So a little bit about MCA Canada before I get into it. Just so that some of you may not be aware of who we are. We're the Mechanical Contracting Association of Canada. And we represent our contractors on a national level with membership advocacy. We communicate with the federal government on issues, and Lord knows with COVID, there are a million issues right now. So that is our main focus. We have provincial associations. We have urban associations in Ontario. Each of them is autonomous. They look after their own not-for-profit, their own issues. And so essentially we just represent issues that are common throughout all of our MCAs across Canada. We include plumbing, heating, air conditioning, some sheet metal, piping. We have a broad range of membership, and then we have associate members who provide services and supplies to us. So that's essentially who MCA Canada is. I'd like to also thank our Women in Mechanical Contracting group for sponsoring. When I brought it to their attention, this opportunity, they within seconds said, hands down, yes, of course. So I'll get into it a little bit later. We do have our own program, but they really were very enthusiastic about stepping up to the plate and working with ORAC and promoting the industry. So when Jessica and Amy asked me to present, or even when Mechanical Magazine asked me to be featured, I must admit the first thought that went through my mind is, what do I have that people want to hear about, especially for 30 minutes, or an article? Why would anybody want to know about my life and what I've done? And then when the magazine came out, I was on the cover. So then I went through this whole like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? I'm on the cover. Am I being narcissistic? And then I took a step back. And I thought, you know what, Tania, what you have done is pretty cool. And it's time for you to realize that. Others are realizing it. Others are congratulating you for it. And it's time for you to do some self-reflection, which I'm going to use a lot, that term self-reflection, over the course of the next 30 minutes. But it's time for you to embrace what you've done. And if people ask you to speak, speak and share your story and shout from the rooftop about what you've done. So I'm a maritimer, as was mentioned earlier. I can talk for days. So I'm not, worried about the speaking aspect of it. I just want to make sure that, people were actually interested in what I had to say. So it is very cool that I am the first female CEO of MCA Canada, and that sounds pretty awesome. And it's time for me to share that achievement with everyone. So the girls gave you a little bit of background on me in my bio for them, but I'll reiterate because that's what I do. So as mentioned, I'm a maritimer. I was born in Gander, Newfoundland. Raised in Moncton, New Brunswick. My dad was an air traffic controller, so those were basically the two air traffic hubs of the Maritimes. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so every day I'd come home from school and she would have lunch, a hot lunch for me. I hated sandwiches. She had a hot lunch for me. I'd come home after school, we'd have banana bread made for us or cookies. She was my brownie leader. She was a brown owl. She was, Sunday school teacher, took me to Sunday school. She made her Halloween costumes. She was an amazing mom. But you know what? Every 2 weeks on payday, I would see my dad give my mom an allowance. It was a generous allowance, don't get me wrong. But I knew from a very young age that I was not going to be receiving an allowance from anyone. I would be my own person. I was going to have my own career, earn my own money. From that, I chose to go on to Mount Allison University, initially to pursue a business degree or commerce degree, but switched after a couple of years when I realized marketing was not for me and accounting. And I went on to pursue a BA in Canadian Studies and then on to an education degree. So I taught on reserve in New Brunswick for 2 years. I taught grade 3. And then my husband-to-be proposed and we moved back to Ottawa where he was from. And when I moved to Ottawa, I substitute taught. I couldn't get on full-time as a teacher. And so I tutored to help make ends meet, substitute taught, as I mentioned, worked part-time in a clothing store. Then I went on to teach adults in Windows 95, and I taught people how to right-click, if you can believe it. And that was a challenge, if you can believe it. It's so second nature to us now, but oh my gosh, people struggled with the whole right-clicking. And then one day, along came the opportunity to work at MCA Canada. So it was a 6-month contract that has turned into the best 20-year career that a girl could ever ask for. Like many of you, though, I struggled daily with being the perfect mom, the perfect wife, and the perfect employee. It was a total balancing act that was very, very often very unbalanced. As I traveled more for work, the guilt would set in, and I would ask myself if I could do this. And you know what? I could, and it's been pretty frigging awesome. We'll talk about family a little bit later on. So as I mentioned, I started with MCA Canada on that 6-month contract. It was a government grant. They started up what was called the Canadian Mechanical Contracting Education Foundation. We'll call it CMCEF for short. The role of CMCF was to provide education to middle management because they kind of looked forward into their crystal ball and saw that there was going to be, and it's here, a shortage in our middle management. So it was a 6-month contract, as I mentioned. I oversaw the national programs of this group. I looked after the fundraising. We had a new 10-day project management, which actually still exists and is, I'm going to give it a shameless plug right now for you girls who aspire to be project managers, but the course is coming up in November. We still have a few seats left. It is always a sellout, and it's one of the greatest achievements of CMCF and MCA Canada, I think, is this program. We've trained well over 1,000 project managers across Canada. And this time it's virtual, so you can be anywhere in Canada and take this program. Okay, enough of that. So during my first week at CMCEF, I had a call with the chair of the fundraising committee because part of my role was fundraising. And he was extremely frustrated. MCA Canada had gone through 3 previous coordinators, and he was extremely frustrated, and he decided to take that frustration out on me. And I ended up going to the bathroom. I was in tears, I cried, and I thought, I don't know if construction is the world for me. Like, what the heck am I doing here? The CEO, Rich McKeegan at the time, he, gave me a big pep talk and brought me down off the ledge, and I continued on very happily. So over the years, with permanent work status, the role expanded, my title changed, and I literally grew to fall in love with my job. My favorite and most rewarding program we initiated probably about 10 to 15 years ago was the Student Chapter program. And this is an initiative where we bring students from participating universities and colleges together for a weekend, and we bring them in to teach them more about the construction industry. It's not covered in their engineering programs, and it's important that they know that this is a viable career option, and maybe design isn't for them, and project management might be. So it has been so rewarding seeing so many students go on and leave that design field and choose mechanical contracting as a career of choice. I love it. We also started a scholarship initiative, which has grown substantially over the years. And we went through a rebrand about 10, maybe not quite 10 years ago. And we became a council of MCA Canada and dissolved as a not-for-profit and are known now as the Construction Education Council. During that time, I was able to run countless golf tournaments, worked with members on committees and task forces, increased our education offerings, all while they left me alone to do my job, and I did it well, which is why they left me alone. So let's fast forward to 2018, and our CEO, Richard McKeegan, who'd been with the association 25 to 30 years, announced his retirement. Immediately, my phone lit up, my email lit up. Tania, are you going to apply? They asked. You should apply, they said. And I thought, you know what, they're right. Why don't I give it a shot? I was an 18-year employee at MCAC, and I should have felt so prepared entering that boardroom for the interview and feeling confident. I wanted the job so badly, but pardon my language, I let the bullshit get into my head. I knew that who the hiring committee was. I might have held some prejudice towards them, and they may have held some prejudice towards me. MCA Canada never had a female CEO. Were they ready for that? They loved Richard McKeegan. He was an awesome CEO. So it was going to be huge shoes to fill, whoever got this role. And I doubted myself, was I going to be able to fill those shoes? Would the industry see me as being able to fill his shoes? Did they see me as anything more than an executive director of education? Did they want to move me out of that position because I did the job well? So why would we take her out if she's doing this? We can just leave her alone and continue on. Did they even want to hire from within? So all of these things got into my mindset, and I literally self-sabotaged myself going to that interview. And guess what? I didn't get the job. So in that moment and many days after, all I could see was that I had failed. I was embarrassed. I was angry. I felt undervalued. I felt under everything. And so now what was I going to do about it? Was I going to stay at MCA Canada? Was I going to move on where I felt maybe I would be valued? There were so many things that I questioned. So after some time and licking of my wounds, I pulled my crap together, and I needed to remind myself that prior to the interview, I loved my job. So it was time to stop whining and let's get back to it. So as you can see on that slide there, it says the first step of change is to become aware of your own bullshit. And that was exactly what I had to do. I had to become aware of what held me back, stop whining, stop complaining, and just pull my crap together and move on. It was time to stop blaming others and fix the situation myself. It was time to do some serious self-reflection. What was I missing? What held me back from getting that job? I was forced to ask myself if I was stuck in my job. Had I become so comfortable that I neglected to take the steps that I needed to propel me to the next level in my career? Had I sent too many signals that I was happy where I was and thus focusing on my job and not on my career. So the most common reason we as women put our jobs before our careers is because we're rooted in one of the greatest female virtues, and that's loyalty. This desire to be loyal led me to neglect my future. It led me to sacrifice my ambitions, and thus I sold my talent and my potential short. Others benefited from my loyalty, which is not a bad thing, but others benefited from my loyalty while I didn't, and it was time to change that. Out of the block, our new CEO came to rely on me very heavily. He trusted me and he presented me with so many new opportunities. It was these opportunities that were going to provide me with new job satisfaction and, unbeknownst to me, prepare me for the next stage of my career. Probably the greatest opportunity he presented me with was networking. My personal world expanded exponentially. And it was, I made sure that I took advantage of those opportunities and showed the board and the exec what I could do. I was able to meet with mentors. I participated in peer groups. I joined LinkedIn. Like, who knew? I never had LinkedIn prior to 2 or 3 years ago. And that expanded my world, both personally and professionally. I could see what other associations were doing. I joined a number of groups on LinkedIn with common issues and interests. I follow people, who offer me advice, or who offer everybody advice on a personal level as well. So if you haven't joined LinkedIn, I highly recommend it. To me, I spend more time on LinkedIn than I do on Facebook now. So it's been a great resource for me. I literally surrounded myself with good people who had my back and wanted to see me succeed. I was able to, through my CEO, he sent me out to conferences that I normally would never have attended. I attended every opportunity I could to Mca of Mca. They have so many great initiatives as well, and such as their women in mechanical industry. I was able to, again, join some of their peer groups. What I did was I got out from behind my desk. I got beyond the four walls and able to beyond the four walls of my office, and I was able to show people what I was made of. It is so important to increase your network and your group of people that you are surrounded by. If you don't meet anyone, people aren't going to know who you are and what you can do. He presented me with new challenges like running a profitable conference and launching the Women in Mechanical Contracting group. So what did I do? I took advantage of these opportunities to show the exec and the board what I could do. Education was important, but it wasn't always visible, and it's not very sexy. It didn't have a swagger to it, not like starting a new MCAC initiative or running a profitable conference in Nashville. That got me out in front of people, let me tell you. People couldn't avoid noticing me then. As a woman, we have to goad ourselves into declaring what we're good at. We have to remind ourselves that we deserve to have a seat at that table. Number two, in the course of 2 years, we became a little short on staff, to say the least, and I didn't think twice about stepping up to that plate. MCAC truly was a career that I loved, and it meant so much to me, and I was going to make sure that it thrived and help that CEO as much as I possibly could. I realized that it didn't come naturally for me to share my achievements also. This was a bit of part of my self-reflection and what I needed to take a look at. I needed to bring attention to the value that I provided. As women, we struggle with self-promotion. We don't want to look arrogant. We don't want to look cocky. We're generally less assertive on job applications when declaring our qualifications too. So make sure, ladies, that you make your achievements visible, especially to those at senior levels. The fourth thing that I had read up on and that I studied a lot about was presence, and to take a look at that. And I decided, you know what, presence actually was probably the easiest thing for me. I'm a Gemini and I'm from out east. And so being chatty and comfortable in that environment is so easy for me. I'm generally a happy person who loves to make people around them happy. I like to make people feel at ease, and most importantly, feel that they're important. How you show up matters. How you show up every day at the office matters. How you show up at meetings matter. How you show up at board meetings, how you show up on the job site. All of this matters. If you go in with the right attitude to start your day and you ask somebody, how they're doing, make them feel important, people remember that. And I know that when I was awarded the job, many people that called, that's so many of their comments to me were, Tania, you're such a social person, or we knew you would, you'll do a great job at this because you make people feel important and welcomed. And so I really think that that is something, if you struggle with presence, that is something you really need to work on. It's leaves such a lasting impression on people. And I want you to remember that kind is cool. So make sure you're always kind. I have a sweatshirt that says kind is cool. And so make sure that you're a kind person. So making all of these changes isn't easy. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen one day. You're not going to say, tomorrow I'm going to be present and I'm going to go into the office and ask how they're doing. It needs to be done every single day. All of these need to be looked at and reviewed. At the end of the week, take a look back and say, did I take advantage of all the opportunities that were presented to me? Did I step up to the plate and take on initiatives that my boss, put out there to everyone, and just make sure you do that all the time and constantly reevaluate yourself and take a look at your situation. You're always growing. So don't go at it alone. You need to surround yourself professionally and personally with allies and mentors. They've probably at one time or another have found themselves in the same position that you're in, and they'll want to share their experiences with you and provide you with sound advice. It's amazing when you reach out to people love that, and they want to be able to help you. If somebody reached out to me, I would love to help them. And actually, there was some people that I met. I was out doing some site visits not long ago, and there was a girl at a Marriott in the States, so just pre-COVID, and she had told me she was going to apply for a job and as a senior sales manager, but didn't feel the confidence to apply because she had been overlooked the last time. So I told her my story because literally it happened about 3 or 4 days later, and I told her about how I had been in a session that CIPH had offered. How, some of the spoken word that took place at that function actually inspired me to go through with my application. And at the end of our meeting, she said to me, I am so glad I met you today. I feel like it was meant to be because I am going to go and apply for that job. So that was pretty cool. And you feel really good when you know that you've helped people. So don't be shy. Go out and ask. It could be a colleague. It could be somebody outside the office that you don't you want to talk to. You don't want your colleagues to know about issues that you're going through. So find yourself an advocate. And an advocate is going to put your name forward on projects, and they're going to introduce you to important colleagues, and they're there to pump up your tires. Join peer groups. Hear what people in similar roles are going through in their jobs and their careers. I had been involved in some peer groups before. I received the role, and since then I've joined a couple in the US through Mca of Mca, and it's amazing. Like they're all women, they're women executives, and I'm hearing what they go through, and they've welcomed me with the little Canadian girl with open arms. So I totally encourage you to get involved in peer groups. Start a peer group. If you don't have one, start one up. Find yourself a coach. Someone who is going to call you out on your own bullshit. They're going to hold you accountable. They're going to cheer you on. They are going to help you prep for that interview. They're going to help you figure out what it is that you're missing, and they'll stay in touch with you, and they literally, truly will hold you accountable. On the personal side of things, I have surrounded myself with the most amazing friends. We call ourselves Bad Moms, the Original Six, the Inner Circle, Bar Babes. And they and we are all there for each other, whether it's personally or professionally. We come from all walks of life. We don't judge. We offer advice. We're cheerleaders and we're mentors. They picked me up and they dusted me off when I didn't receive that job. They gave me a kick in the pants too when I needed it. And they shared a glass of wine when it seemed that wine was required. Make time for your friends. Do not cut them out of your life. I cannot stress how important my friends and my groups of girls are for me. So don't cut them out of your life. They will always be there for you and you for them. Without friends, I wouldn't be where I am. Family. We all know the value of family. I look at my daughter and I want to be a role model for her. It means so much to me that she has been able to watch me through my career, and that she realizes that it's okay to have a career and a family and to be successful and to want more in your career. I hope that she pursues something that she is passionate about. And for my son, I think it's really important for young men and boys to see women in a working environment, in a strong role with a strong voice, and that I hope he supports his future wife when she wants to do things like this, what I've done in my career. And then there, of course, there's my husband, who I can't say enough about. He has supported me through my career. My job takes me away a lot. Even before I was chair of or CEO of Mca Canada, so I was on the road a lot, and he always supported me on that. There was times when we did a high five in the airport, and I think it's so important that you have the support of your family, and be supportive of them too. So let's fast forward to let's say February 1st, 2020. The CEO surprised us all with the announcement that he is going to retire. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like, this can't be happening. I'm actually getting the second opportunity to apply for this job again. The opportunity was up for grabs. Initially, I found myself in a bit of a panic. The doubt started to creep in. Who would they bring in now? Could I go through this again personally? Are they ready still yet for a female CEO? And then I was like, Tania, whoa, put on the brakes. What are you thinking? You are the right person. You need to be the person that they bring in. And to be honest, I felt like I had been on an interview for the last 2 years. I knew deep down inside that I had proved the naysayers wrong and that I was ready to take on the role. This time, instead of going in and asking myself if I'm good enough, am I qualified enough, I went in with the attitude that they knew that they had made a mistake the last time, and that I wasn't going to let them down. So that was the mental component. Like, I just got into my own head and said, you've shown them. Now it's time to give them that second chance. Was I worried that I wasn't an expert in everything? You betcha. But part of my self-reflection had included realizing that you can't be an expert when your portfolio is so large. You have to rely on people around you who have an expertise in certain areas. And so don't put yourself down. Don't feel like you can't accomplish something, the big picture, be the boss if you're not an expert in everything. So you need to surround yourself with people who trust you and who you trust and who are going to help you on this journey. My coach reminded me not to go into the interview feeling like I wasn't good enough, qualified enough. He said, she said, both of them, I had a couple of coaches, go in there with the attitude that I'm going to prove them wrong. Never count yourself out of a job. Let the employer do that for you. Don't go in there. I had self-sabotaged myself that first time. I created all kinds of excuses about why I wouldn't get it, instead of going in there and thinking, I'm going to get it. Let the employer decide that you're not the right person. Don't you decide. So the good news, as you've guessed, is I was awarded the job of CEO of Mca Canada, the first female CEO of MCAC. And the executives showed nothing but respect and confidence in me. And I think they were genuinely happy that I was able to have that second chance. So smash, that's the sound of the glass ceiling breaking for me. It's been an incredible couple of months. My first couple of weeks on the job were literally when COVID hit. I started on March the 2nd or the 3rd, and had to go away immediately to a conference, which got canceled literally the day after I got there. Had to find my way home, all while the world was shitting the bed and our industry was being shut down. And here I was, 6 hours in a different time zone, 6 hours away, not 6 hours away, but a 6-hour time zone difference. It was awful. And the area of weakness that I talked about was advocacy. It was never a role that I had an opportunity to work in. And all of a sudden, boom, that's what MCAC was all about, was advocacy. So fortunately, we have a great exec who assisted us with a lot of it. I had a lot of peers that I reached out to, and I had a COO who this was his strength. And so together we got through it. I think we did a fantastic job for MCAC, getting them through that initial phase of COVID. And I learned so much. And now I don't have a problem with advocacy and getting myself out there. It was a quick learning experience, let me tell you, but you know, it was worthwhile for sure. So like I say, the country, So a couple of things that I realized as well, and that I had to embrace during that time was, number one, I was working in an amazing industry with amazing people. I was so honored to represent it. And I just want to make them successful in their careers and in their businesses. It will give me so much pleasure to know that I have assisted somebody and their family move ahead in their business and make them more successful. I love my job and I enjoy coming to work every day. There is something new that it's so important to love your job and to find something that is so rewarding and that you can experience new things and meet new people each and every day. What I have recognized is that it's always going to be a learning experience. I'm going to continue learning the full extent of my career. In full disclosure, I'm really learning and working on the fact that I can't do it all and that I may make mistakes, that I need to rely on my colleagues for their expertise, and I'm always going to be a work in progress. So most importantly, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. And yeah, every now and then someone calls and asks me to speak. I need to give myself a little bit of a pat on the back and not go into full-on panic mode. And I mean, most of all, most proud that I can be potentially, or I am, not potentially, I am a role model. Whether it's for my daughter's friends, you, other women in the industry, don't ever count yourself out. So when all is said and done, don't beat yourself up when you fall short of your expectations. Don't second guess yourself or berate yourself because you're not making the progress as quickly as you would like to have made. We're all a work in progress until the day we die. So in conclusion, let's circle back to the story I told you about the member that made me cry that first week in my job at MCA Canada. I want to share with you that he's also one of the very first people that called me when I received was awarded the job at MCAC. He's in his 80s now. He's a past MCA Canada chairman, and he called me to congratulate me. He said that he knew I was ready for the job, and he was so proud and wanted to let me know that he would be there for me if I ever needed advice, if I wanted to, come to him with any questions. He was there for me. And so for the second time, that same gentleman made me cry. It meant so much to me. It was like my massive career aha moment where I had gone in a complete circle where this person who didn't know me from Adam 20 years ago was now, one of my biggest advocates and was cheering me on from the sidelines, unbeknownst to me. So that meant so very much. So that is my conclusion to my seminar or my presentation for you. I do want to share with you a book that I have read, How Women Rise, and it's about breaking the 12 habits that are holding you back from your next raise, promotion, or job. I've read all kinds of self-help books over the years, in particular 2 years ago. And but this one has meant so much. It's all about me. It talks about being a people pleaser. I am a massive people pleaser. So that is one of the things that I'm working on. And so if I could recommend it, I got it through Chapters. I highly encourage you to invest in that book. Well, thanks, girls. Back to you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Tania.
much. Very inspiring presentation. We have a ton of awesome comments here in the question and answer box and in the chat.
Oh gosh.
Jill Breeze says, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Dorothy, I think said absolutely Tania about something in the beginning. Embrace it. Kim Adam, love this presentation, Tania. Jessica says, loving this presentation, very inspiring. Dorothy McCabe, great presentation and reminders for all of us about our career development, especially about bouncing forward after you hit a snag or a barrier in your career.
Mhm.
She also has a question. If you're willing to share, could you talk a bit about your salary negotiations? How do you approach it to ensure that you are asking for what you deserve? Too many women don't negotiate salary and don't ask for enough. What's your advice?
So I'm fortunate because I belong to an association, which is something else I meant to mention too earlier. You know, not only join peer groups and things, but join associations like ORAC and your women's group, things that, you know, that will help you further you in your career. So I belong to this association called Canadian Association Society of Executives. And they actually do a review every year on salaries throughout the association world. And it's on all levels. It could be at, you know, a CEO level, it could be middle level. And so I was able to obtain a copy of that, and I saw what was being offered to people in this role. And I started on the high end and asked for the high end, didn't quite get it, but it was very close, and I was very happy. And they were great to negotiate with, and agreed that after a year we would come back, and I guess if I'd proved myself, we would you know, relook at things. But yeah, that's how I went about it. I found a benchmarking system.
We have a question from Ramona. What would you like to tell your 18-year-old self?
Well, I would tell them a couple of things. So the first thing is consider a trade. Like when I was growing up, somebody mentioned it yesterday in one of their seminars. You know, they talked about how, you know, in my generation, it was all home ec. We did one little bridge of shop, which was fun. I still have the crap that I made in shop. I made a light, a wooden light, and I still have that, to be honest with you. But I never saw it as a career for a woman. I didn't think that you would make good money in it. We just weren't told about it. You know, I just saw it as I guess some, you know, a dirty and that I just didn't want to be in the trenches. But you know what? There's so much to construction besides trades. You can be an estimator. You can be a project manager. And to be honest with you, if I could get a second life, I would love to be a construction project manager. I just think it's so cool what they do. They have so many different opportunities. They can lead. You know, they know so much about the construction industry. They're a bit anal, which I am, OCD. Like totally, that's what, if I could do it all over again, I would be a PM in the construction industry. So that's one thing. I wouldn't have closed the door maybe so quickly on that. But that is responsibility of associations like myself and you know, ORAC. It's to get out there and teach kids about these opportunities because you know, they're not hearing about them. So we're working on that. The other thing I would do is, which I just kind of mentioned sort of, is I would have gotten involved in more groups. Things like our student chapter. Like I have so much respect for these kids putting themselves out there and joining groups about that's related to what they're studying. And for me, I was like, I am not doing that. I was just so, believe it or not, I was a bit introverted back then. And I would never have joined a group. So if I could go back, I absolutely would have gotten involved in university or college or programs. I would have gotten, maybe I would have ran for student council. I would never run for student council. That just wasn't something back then, but I wish I had, you know, looking back now. And you can put all that on a resume. And volunteering, that is so impressive when you see that on a resume. You see that people volunteer and give their time and that they're passionate about something. So therefore they may carry that same kind of passion about the job that you're hiring them for. And you know what, you can have it all. That is my other thing. When I was 18, I guess I did know then I would have it all, or I could have it all, but I just really think that it's important that we as young girls and young women understand that we can have it all. We can make it work. Yeah, my kids, they eat a lot of pizza pockets and they know how to use them, but they're okay. They came out of this all right. And my son, even though he eats off pizza pockets, is writing a midterm right now in nutrition. So you can survive. You can have it. You can do it all.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Marima says, great presentation, absolutely inspiring. Sandra Falville, great presentation, Tania. Lori Green, can you please share the author of your book?
Sure, yeah. It is Sally and Helgesen, Helgesen.
Perfect.
And if you just go to Indigo and you just Google How Women Rise, it pops up. Or Amazon, I think it was on Amazon too. But honest to God, it's a great read.
Perfect. I'll try and find a link and I'll post that in the LinkedIn group for everyone.
I mean, we've all read self-help books, that I've got a couple right here actually. Dare to Lead, Brene Brown. They're all great, but this one, I just felt like there was 12 chapters and they talked about, weaknesses, and I just, it's kind of a Bible resource guide.
Awesome. Jessica Bannister, such great advice for all of us. I loved your story. Thanks for sharing and inspiring us to push ahead.
You're welcome.
Adila, awesome presentation. Christine Snyder, thank you for paving the way for more women to feel that they can succeed in a male-dominated industry.
I gotta tell you, so again, I digress, sorry.
Okay.
So you know what I'm really excited about, girls, is we had our first board meeting during the pandemic virtually. I cannot wait to have our first board meeting because for 20 years, I sat on the opposite side giving reports of that boardroom table. And now at the next one that's in person, I'm going to be on the other side. And I got to tell you, I might even cry when that happens, because it's going to be another aha moment for me. Here I am sitting, with the exec on either side of me, and I'm not the girl at the back of the room giving reports. So I'm really, really excited and need COVID over now.
Oh yeah. Congratulations again, Tania. You have so many amazing accomplishments, and it's been great to hear you talk to everyone about them today. It's been very inspiring. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the event.
I will. I'm loving it.
Perfect.
Loving it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tania. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.